It's time now for the Success is Subjective podcast. Here is your host and therapeutic consultant for young adults only, Joanna Lilley.
Hi, and welcome to the show. If you're new here, I'm glad to have you. This podcast was formed to collectively build a bank of stories from normal people sharing their nonlinear paths. Unfortunately, social media paints a narrow picture of what success looks like, so I'm doing my best to spread the news that changing course is common, and you don't have to know what you want to do the rest of your life at 18. If you're a parent worried about your young adult and whether their path is leading them to success, you're in the right place. I'm a therapeutic consultant who works with young adults to connect them with resources that'll help them get back on a better path. So if you're curious, let's chat. You can schedule a free consultation through my website, which you can find the link for in the show notes. Today, my guest is Bec Koop. As someone who faced many challenges in life, Bec can say with confidence, it's always worth getting back up and trying again. Failures can be your biggest lessons and sometimes your greatest successes in disguise, and she is living proof of this. She hopes to help others learn to navigate their inner world to create a more peaceful, waking reality. Now, what makes this interview extra special is that Bec and I have shared very similar moves and paths after growing up in Northern Virginia, like almost eerie, but super cool. From going to Radford for college, to changing our majors to recreation parks and tourism, to then living and working at Snowshoe in West Virginia, to living in several parts of Colorado, to now, and at least for now, calling Michigan home. It's just kind of wild how we've had these similar yet vastly different paths in our lives. But what I can say for certain is that she has one hell of a story to share, and you are going to be really glad that you tuned in to listen. So let's not wait any longer. Here's Bec. Bec, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Heck yes. Thank you, Joanna. I appreciate you for the opportunity. So good to just be back in touch.
I mean, we're talking about, well, first of all, we'll probably get to this when we talk about your story, but we've known each other for over 20 years.
It's freaking wild. How did we graduate like that long ago?
That is all right. We're not that old.
We're forever young, babe. Forever young.
Exactly. I did have somebody tell me today, they were like, you don't look a day older than 25. And I'm like, yes, I do, but I'll take it. Thank you very much. Anyways, we both look young.
Yeah,
totally.
Well, it's because we live young.
Exactly. All right. So let's, first of all, thank you again for being a guest on the podcast. I'm going to ask a couple specific questions, but honestly, we're going to shoot the shit.
Great.
Cool. All right. So I don't actually know or at least I don't remember. Let's be real. It's been a while. Where did you grow up? And then what was the messaging that you were getting about like what you were supposed to be doing after high school?
Grew up outside of the DC area in Northern Virginia. And had I listened to the messaging from growing up, I probably would be one of these lovely ladies in a pantsuit going and working for one of the agencies in downtown DC. And heck no, that wasn't my journey, not my path, not what made my heart happy. And I mean, even before I changed degrees over to recreation parks and tourism where we met, I originally started off at Radford in criminal justice. So like I was trying to kind of like clear some family karma and try to honestly clean up a sad but true murder case in my family, and realize that, you know, I would always be chasing something that wasn't going to fulfill my heart, and it was always going to bring me back to a tough place. And I had an awesome professor just call it out and be like, hey, if you've ever been through XYZ, you're going to have bias in the field. And if so, then this isn't the best place or the best job for you. And if you answered yes to a bunch of these biased questions, you should consider changing degrees. And wow. I literally talked to that professor after that class, and I switched to recreation, no joke, the next day. And I had talked to a friend that night and told him what I was pondering. And he was like, Bec, you love the outdoors. You love to play. You love to play with people. and you're really good at enhancing people's experiences. So why not try this? He's like, you get paid to play, girl. Let's go. And he's like, that's a whole lot better than dealing with people on the worst days of their lives, right? And I was like, dang, for somebody who's so happy and go lucky, what the heck was I thinking going into criminal justice at first? But, you know, that was part of my path. And really, I needed to find myself and my happiness to be able to help curate that for others too.
Yeah. How was the support? I'm just kind of curious too, because, you know, you hear those stories about parents that are like, you changed your major to what, you know, or like, what was the response or reaction? Obviously, you've got some friends that are like, do this, you're getting paid to play. It's awesome. You love this anyways. But how did your family respond to that?
At first, just a lot of shock because I was very much going 100% against the Northern Virginia mold. They're like, you want to move to the mountains and do what? So I think I caught a lot of them off guard, but at the same time, any of those who knew my true, genuine soul knew that I was the happiest out in the woods and out in nature. And, you know, and some people, especially those who were closer to me that knew why I was getting into criminal justice, trying to solve my cousin's murder, they're like, you know, they were overwhelmed with joy when they're like, Bec, you're actually doing something for you. And so I would say it was a bit of mixed bag, but for the most part, very supportive. So, yeah, you know, only a couple people weren't happy that I didn't end up in a suit in the agency, and that's okay. It's all right.
And you're living your best life now, so that's what really matters.
Heck yeah, game on. And I've had a wild journey along the way. I've lived in beautiful places. I've worked at top-notch resorts. I've owned multiple businesses, and, you know, now I'm living life my way, which is very different than a lot of other people who were on the path that I was previously projected to be on, to be real.
Yeah. Well, I think you're hitting the nail on the head too, of like a lot of what, when we're growing up, right? Like what we see as our future oftentimes is because of like that cultural or societal expectation, which is geographically based, right? Like being in the DC area, like, yeah, high pressure suits, might be working in politics. You can expect to be like in traffic on, you know, the Beltway or whatever. It's like, no, that does not appeal to me. Like, I don't want that grind. But some people, that's really like, that's what they knew. That's what they know. It's what they want, and to each their own.
Right.
So let's dive into, I mean, you kind of like just high leveled all of these twists and turns on your journey, but let's chunk it up. Like, okay, so you get your degree, or if you want to talk about kind of your experience in college, you can do that too. Fill me in from there. Like, lead us on the path to exactly where you are doing whatever it is that you're doing right now.
Heck yeah. You know, right after college, I went straight into the workforce in alignment with my degree. So I went straight to ski resorts and worked on that path. I had a ton of fun. It was amazing. Living in West Virginia at a ski resort called Snowshoe for a while. And then that I ended up starting to ride snowmobiles in addition to snowboarding. And that took me on my adventures out to Colorado, where I lived out there for 12 years, still chasing the snowflakes. And, you know, honestly, it was while I was out in Colorado back in 2011, I had a life-changing back injury that I wrecked a snowmobile really bad, not just once, but twice. And I, like, the first time I really jacked up my body, and, you know, it was really brutal. It was life-changing. I happened to be asking for a divorce at the same time. So it was like low. And I took like 11 months of full rehab and recovery to get my body back to be able to get on a snowmobile again. And on my second day back on a snowmobile, because I was running a snowmobile shop, on my second day back on the trails, I was on the main trail. Somebody jumped out of the woods on a side trail and T-boned me. And needless to say, I went flying over the handlebars, hit a tree with my spine, and re-injured everything. That was, again, another major life reality check. I mean, I nearly died in those moments. I almost was pinned between the machine and the tree. I dislocated 4 ribs from my sternum and my spine. I dislocated my shoulder, and I rotated a whole bunch of vertebrae. I mean, I had a lot of fun, we'll say. And
I'm like over here trying not to throw up. Like,
oh, dude, it was nuts. It was wild. I mean, I was just thankful that my need for speed and my adrenaline junkie side of me had me riding in such an aggressive position, because had I been sitting down and riding very leisurely and casually, I probably wouldn't be here today, to be honest, because I was 8 miles in the backcountry when I got T-boned. And if I had been sitting down, the location where it struck my machine, I would have lost my leg, which means, like, guarantee I would have lost my leg. And being that far out without medical help, you and I both know how that equates. And, femoral artery bleed out in the backcountry. And so counting my blessings that I was that wild child in those moments and going fast and riding aggressively, because had I not been standing up, I wouldn't be here today. So, but at that point, my life majorly shifted. I had to sell my other snowmobiles. I sold my whitewater kayak. I sold my downhill bike. I had to let go of all of my toys and had to literally rechange my life. I got out of the snowmobile world and all of that. And that's when I started down a wild vision of doing wedding flowers, because I could pick up and hold wedding flowers without pain and discomfort. And that took me on a 10-year path in the wedding industry, which was wild and fun for a while, also incredibly stressful. And then, the rebel in me decided to start throwing cannabis into the bouquets and created a whole niche of weed weddings, which was wild, and had the honors of being in Forbes and Newsweek and, Bloomberg and a couple really cool publications. And had a lot of beautiful doors open up to me. And then ultimately I realized that wasn't my path either. And, really where I am today, I'm now in a situation where I am working part-time with my parents, improving people's quality of life by installing accessibility and mobility equipment in their homes, like stair lifts and grab bars. And then when I'm not doing that hustle, I am doing my own business called Vibrational Transcendance, because we're not just transcending, we're also dancing along the way and dancing through life. And, I host different one-on-one sessions, but also community events to bring people back into alignment with their inner child and their inner joy, because there was a lot of times in my childhood that were pretty rough, and I wasn't allowed to have that childlike wonder and joy. It was kind of taken away from me at points when I had to grow up real fast due to some familial stuff. And, here I am now just to be the instigator of change for people. And I call myself the fire starter of joy, because, I will get people back into their bodies and back into their heart and open their minds in ways that they might have thought were impossible. And, sometimes it takes hearing somebody else's story to see what you can also be capable of and overcoming. And, as somebody who's overcame a tremendous list of trauma, I'm very proud to be where I am today, but I wouldn't be here without doing the hard inner core work on myself and with other healers and other just practitioners and different practices. And if I didn't dedicate time to myself, who knows where I'd be, honestly. Yeah. I'm just glad that even when the back injury happened, I said no to all of the pharma and all the opiates. And I said, I want to figure this out naturally. And they told me, okay, cool. We'll see you in 2 years for back surgery. Well, it's been 12 years. Hey, yoga saved my life. I will say that. Yoga and meditation changed everything for me, because I finally got in tune with my body and got my strength back, and then I got my mind back, and then I got my heart back. So it's been a wild ride, but hey, we're here.
I think you just caught me off guard, because I wasn't even obviously when you're describing that second accident, I'm over here having a physiological response, oh my God, that would hurt so bad. And I didn't even put two and two together that the typical response for such a significant physical trauma would be big pharma. Oh my God, you've got major, serious back pain. Take these pills. And to your point, it could have completely been a different path had you not said no.
Oh, 1000%. I mean, and
Wow.
even, it was above and beyond just like the physical injury. I mean, like, I lost my life as an athlete.
Yeah.
I lost my life of just being able to pick up my dog and hug him. Like, I mean, I couldn't lift anything more than 5 pounds, no exaggeration, for months on end. And I mean, I saw osteopathic doctors, chiropractors, acupuncture. I mean, like, Reiki, massage. I mean, I was doing it all. But really, I mean, it took me and my personal willpower to really push through and persevere, because to be real, it was brutal for a while. And like, in one doctor, he just wanted to like sign me up for antidepressants and anti-anxiety right when all of that happened. He was like, well, you're never going to be the same, so you might as well get used to it. Here's something to numb yourself in the meantime. And I was like revulsed. I was so put off, so upset, so offended that that's literally what was the next best steps, according to the medical field. And I was like, no, there's got to be other ways. And, do I still have some chronic pain every now and again? But I also, if I do something that really triggers my body, it'll talk to me. But, for the most part, like, I am in amazement where I am today compared to where I was with that injury 12 years ago, because without personal perseverance and belief in myself, again, things could be night and day completely different.
Yeah. Okay. So hearing more details about the journey since literally 18-year-old Bec starts at college as a criminal justice major, leading to like the trauma and all the adversity that you navigated and experienced professionally, personally, leading to where you are now. I have to ask this question because I ask everybody. It's so important for us to define success individually. So that said, do you see yourself as successful? I
do. I really do. There's so many things that could have taken me down physically, literally. I mean, I've totaled 7 cars. I've totaled 2 snowmobiles. I mean, like, I've had crazy accidents while caving. I mean, like, I'm the cat with 9+ lives. So, the fact that I'm still here and I'm now able to help people change their minds, change their vision, change their heart space. Heck yeah. I mean, I see it all as wins, not just for me, but for the collective. And when I see somebody get out of a funk where I've previously been before and I see them start to shine again, I mean, it's like, I don't know, the heavens open up and they start singing for all of us. It's a beautiful thing. And I feel very selfless in the work that I'm doing now, because it just is so soulful and so heart-led that when I see people break down their own barriers, it's one of the most beautiful things, and I get to celebrate with them, and I become not only their biggest cheerleaders, but so many of my clients end up as like dear friends of mine. And I'm like, oh, you call this work? I call this play. Let's go. Like, and I'm super blessed for those opportunities, no doubt. And success is what you define it. And the way I see it is, I'm happy. I have a roof over my head. I can feed myself. I can afford to go buy some new toys every now and again. I mean, if you told former me that I was going to buy my own house by myself, like, I would have laughed, maybe. I would have thought that was only possible with a partner and everything. And nah, girl, I rocked it out. I saved that money. I did it. I made the right decisions. And, here I am, I will say genuinely, truly living my best life. And I couldn't be more grateful. And I just can't wait to have more work-life balance where I just get to play even more.
I love it. Okay. So I'm going to ask a little off script question because, usually I always like to ask my guests, like, if there's any type of imparting advice that you would give to a young adult that's kind of navigating all this. I want to ask something that's really pointed, based and similar to your experience. Having grown up in Northern Virginia, having lived out west, moving like to a couple different states. Here's my specific question. If you could speak to the importance of living in different places, whether it's working seasonally or just, moving somewhere else to kind of like set roots for a time. Why is that so important for young adults?
I love this question. Great job. Way to go there. So I would say, living at these different places around the country really gave me a different perspective into the different populations, and the way that different people's brains work. It was even a drastic shift from growing up outside of DC and going to where we went to school for college. And where I grew up outside of DC, there's either extreme poverty or extreme wealth. Well, ironically, at one of my parents' house, it was wealthy, and the other house was very poor. And then things happened at the wealthy house, and I ended up in the very poor house for the rest of my youth, we'll say. And it was just very interesting to see the different dynamics in people and what their values were. When I moved to West Virginia, I thought I was just moving there to get paid to snowboard and to snowmobile. Well, I learned how to grow a garden. I learned how to go hunting. I learned how to skin a deer. These were completely different things to me. And it wasn't just like, oh, wow, fun, I did that. No, this was their way of life. If they didn't have the garden, they didn't have the food to get them through winter. If they didn't shoot that buck, they might not have a meal on their table that night, And so I learned a lot about different people's values, about also our food system, and about how to be more connected with Mother Earth, which was huge. But then the West Virginia just really opened me up that way tremendously. And then moving out to Colorado, I lived in several different areas in Colorado. Again, some were more on the affluent side, and some were on the more poor side, to be real, because I couldn't live in Bec. So I lived right over the hill in the more affordable town, and I drove 40 minutes to Bec every day. That's cool, but it's what I needed to do in the time. But I just really learned a lot from living in these different areas and even working with different populations, whether I was working side by side with other locals, or I was working in these high tourism industries where you're dealing with people from all over the globe where money's nothing to them. It was very interesting to learn a lot about people's values, about financial things, again, just life. And I couldn't be more grateful for having the opportunity to travel and to push boundaries and to go to foreign places without knowing a single soul, because it forced me to get more confident with myself. It forced me to build those relationships, to learn how to be better at making friendships. It just taught me a ton about myself, but about the world. And, now I'm really happy and cozy in the Midwest. I can't deny it. I know you are too, girl. I see it.
Yes, I'm definitely cozy here for sure. But I'm just giggling because I just appreciate the going off the cuff and obviously answering this very unscripted question. But it just felt like it was a question I needed to ask based on your journey, your experience. And I thought that you would give a pretty transparent and honest take on why that can be really important for growth for young people nowadays.
Absolutely. It's all about just seeing a different perspective. And especially if you've lived in one place your whole life, get out and explore the world, even if it's just for a vacation. But also when you're on vacation in a new foreign land, go check out the local market. Go to the local dive bar. You don't need to go to the chain restaurant that you can go to in the States. Why? And that's a big thing that I've been very fortunate with is, although at times it might have seemed like I didn't have much money, but I was rich in experiences, it was because I saved a lot of my money to travel the world. And one of my first major international trips was when I was 15 years old going to El Salvador. And, to go from again, a very wealthy part of the world to a third world country. And, there was literally car bombings and carjackings, and it was almost not safe being the only gringa in the area at that time. it was a culture shift and eye-opening experience, but also like, I'll never forget seeing the impoverished children coming up to me, begging me for money. And here I was, just a child myself. And, you know, like it made it, when I went back home to the States, I was grateful for electricity. I was grateful for clean running water. I was grateful for the meals that were in front of me, even if it was a box of mac and cheese, you know, because some of this stuff that I experienced at age 15 over in El Salvador was life shifting. You know, I mean, and then I've continued to travel the world since then and learning about different cultures and how they connect with their family members, how they share meals, how they share the holidays. It just changed so much of my perspective on life. And so, you know, if you can't uproot and move somewhere, go get on a plane and go travel. It's going to be one of the best things for your heart and your soul, hands down. I'm still an avid traveler. I try to go international at least twice a year if I can. And I'm a dork over Central and Southern America. Just shout outs. Love it down there. But yeah, I mean, the world will teach you so much if you're willing to go explore.
Bec, thank you for carving out some time to be a guest on the podcast, to share your story, and just like sidebar, for doing the work that you're doing right now. We'll make sure that we have all the links for people to connect with you in the show notes. And I will obviously kind of highlight it when I separately will record the intro. But for now, thank you again for showing up today.
Absolutely. And like one final little love note is, you know, we've all been through a lot of trauma, and, you know, healing's not a one size fits all path, you know, and different traumas might require a different modality to heal. And so, you know, explore your options. Like I never would have expected to do everything from plant medicine to hypnotherapy to talk therapy to art therapy to dance therapy. I mean, and I found value in each of those. And so I couldn't be more grateful that I was willing and open-minded to try so many different modalities for healing when talk therapy wasn't cutting it fully for me. So find what's best for you and whatever's best for your heart. And I think, you know, once you're tapped into your heart, the path will unfold. So sending lots of love to you, Joanna, to all of the beautiful listeners. Nothing but love.
Thanks, Bec.
That's it for this week's Success is Subjective episode. We want to thank our guest for joining Joanna on the show this week and for being willing to share your journey. This podcast would not exist if it weren't for people such as yourself. Stay tuned for our next episode, where you can bet it'll be another amazing human sharing their personal story with the world. Make sure you check out the show notes, where you will find contact information, website details, and all social media for our guest. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, you can email joanna@lilleyconsulting.com. Be sure to check out the lilleyconsulting.com website for additional resources outside of podcasting. Now, if you're listening to the show on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe. And while you're at it, feel free to leave a review. You can also download to listen to the Success is Subjective podcast on other popular podcast apps, such as Audible, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio. Thanks again for listening in, and remember, there is no single path through life. Success is what you make it.